steps. This meeting has been recorded. Also, please remember that it's not an all-share meeting, rather a question and answer for Paul H's take on the 12 steps. For details on all of Paul's events, his story under arrest, his books, t-shirts, and videos of previous meetings and events, go to his website, zenbitchlab.com. And today I've chosen page 68 from the second paragraph. I'll go ahead. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Perhaps there is a better way, we think so, for we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We are in the world to play the role he assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us, and humbly rely on him. Does he enable us to match calamity with serenity? Okay, that's the reading tonight. I'll hand it over to you, Paul.
Hello, everybody. Paul Alcoholic. If anybody new here, can you put your hand up for a second? All right, so we got Alex, and let's see. Hey, Alex, how are you? I'm just going to present the basic, the basis of these talks, just like they used the word, we're on a new basis. Usually the basis becomes not so much noticed anymore, but you notice everything from the new basis. Yeah. So the basis is a very primary condition. So this platform is one member of recovery who followed the steps and everything else, came up with this idea that the exact nature of the wrong is the mental states of being identified as self. So that which has defeated us isn't us, which is paramount to. And so every meeting that we have here is premised on that idea, because and so we're right around here. This is stuff written right after the fourth step. And the difference between a resentment and my resentment is huge. Fear and my fear, harms done to others and my harming others. This sense of ownership of shit that we really don't own because we were driven, as it says in our book, by 100 forms of something. So if you're driven, you're basically not in the role of driver. So I found in my own review of the addictive life that something had taken me over and he really used me for transportation and basically left me holding the bag. So the consequences of self aren't just what it compels you to do, but what it does with you after, yeah, which it burdens you with a lot of guilt and shame. And I've watched a lot of people in recovery not recover from that sense of doership concerning what they did when they were loaded. Yeah, and so they're still walking around free from the active addiction, but they're carrying the old baggage. It's unbelievable, because there's a stubborn sense of being the doer, even though if you really looked at how it was, it felt like something took you over, something used you for transportation. Why not let that take you to a new idea, a new conclusion? Instead of having to stunt that with the stubborn idea that I'm the doer no matter what. Yeah. And I found a lot of relief, because what happened with me when this thing hit me, when I saw self in page 64, around that sentence, being convinced self manifested in various ways, what has defeated us. When I read self that night, I saw self as something foreign to me, as an activity. Really, I like to call it selfing. And that activity is, I am not the origin of that activity. I'm pretty much the audience to that activity in a sense. And if I start believing in the false evidence this activity presents, it leads to decisions, which they talk about quite a lot. We made a decision based on self that later put us in the position of being hurt. Now, there's been a lot of decisions based on self. Why would you keep calling them yours? It says very, very clear. It doesn't say you has defeated you. It says self has defeated us. So if there's decisions based on self, they're not based on us. Why is there still an ownership of all those actions that came from a decision based on self, and yet we keep calling them my actions and my consequences? I see this as a stubborn misunderstanding that causes the possibility of a bondage of self in recovery from the bondage of self. So that's all. So that's it. Put it there. And then today, what was read is on it's about the fear inventory. And we reviewed our fears thoroughly. Now, I wouldn't call them our fears. I would just say we reviewed fear thoroughly. And most of what we call fear is really mental anxiety, don't you feel? I mean, fear is a valid emotion that comes up when you're under an apparent threat right now. And it's valid. It saved my ass in the water when I thought I saw that shark. Fear just dumped a lot of adrenaline and I swam the shore. So fear has a valid role in life, obviously. But I believe the mental state has mimicked the fear into mental anxiety. And many of us are reacting to what's not happening, actually. It's insane to me. So I would say we review fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Really, the experiences they're having us, I feel, more than we having them. Yeah. Who's really going to entertain fear all day? I think it feels like a forced event, doesn't it? That we're in a condition of powerlessness and something is imposing shit on us that we wouldn't want to be imposed by. Who wants to be worrying about what's not happening all day? I mean, to me, obviously, it's not. I don't wake up in the morning. I'm really looking forward to getting into fear all day. And I'm just going to keep promoting it, even if it's not there with mental anxiety. I just don't see it. Yeah. So it seems like something is imposing its will on our life. And I would say and that possibility is given to us by the act of being identified as it, really. So that the problem resides in the head. It talks to you as you. And this is why we keep listening, really. So we put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. This is also so very interesting when you do the inventory, because resentment, you usually have a second column. You have a story why you resent Wendy. Yeah. So Wendy would be the first column. And then Wendy left me for another guy. Yeah. There's a thing. But in fear, there's usually no thing in the second column, because the fear is not based on fact, is it? I'm fearful of something, but usually what you're afraid of isn't actually happening at the moment. It's a fear that's being promoted by thought, yes, of yesterday and tomorrow. So a lot of times when I lead people through the inventory, the second column in the fear inventory is usually empty because it's being made up. The fear isn't coming from a truthful situation or an honest appraisal. It's false evidence appearing real and then provoking a sense of anxiety. So a lot of times I'm afraid of being destitute. I'm not destitute right now, yeah, but I'm afraid of it. So what do you write down on the second column? It would be nice to write down, I'm not destitute. You know what I mean? That in a way that would stop it in its tracks. I'm afraid of destitution and I'm not destitute. Yeah, but does it? Does the fact of what you wrote down in the second column stop the whole procession? No, it doesn't. Because this isn't based on facts. It's based on a lot of false evidence appearing as facts. Yeah. So I'm afraid of being destitute. I'm not, but let's just override that and get to the reason why I'm feeling destitute, because I could be. Yeah. Yeah. Anything can happen in what's not happening. I could be, anything. Whatever your head can imagine, you can entertain as, hey, that could probably happen, but it's not happening right now. Yeah. So the second step should end in it, I'm not destitute. Okay, give up the ghost, get on with something else, help somebody or something. But no, why am I afraid of destitution? Well, it's going to affect my my pride, my self-esteem, my relations to others. I won't have a place to live. Who's going to want to be with me? My feeling of emotional security is based on people liking me. Who's going to like me if I'm destitute? And then the fourth column. All right, well, what's your role in this? Complete, really. And then hint upon hint, 2 out of the 4 things they say will basically be seen. 2 of them start with self. Self-centeredness. What is it? Self-seeking and self-seeking and frightened, and selfishness. So I think that would be a good indication. When you look at your role in things, it has self in 2 of the 4. And inconsiderate and dishonest just seem to be attributes of selfishness and self-seeking and frightened, really. So I would say the whole kit and caboodle is going ding, 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 self, and then it's my resentment, my fear. Okay, keep having it if you want it that way. I mean, you can only put it out here, I don't know how many years. Just keep putting it out. If you want to have fear, have it. Great. It's gonna, the head's, milking it like some golden calf. Really, it is. It has so many stories that are totally relevant based on the fear that you're in. If you took the fear away, you'd have to come up with a new story, or maybe not have a story. What? Yeah. Maybe see what life has in store for you instead of what your head has in store for you. Haven't you had that already enough? So, all right, the third column, they write it down as, instinctual agenda. And usually there's something that's residing over the agenda, which is self. Yeah. So self is managing our life and it's not delivering the goods, basically. And so that's why we're here doing an inventory with the hopes of, all right, when I look at my role, I see its role. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There you go. You're on to something now. So I tell you, a resentment's shelf life is quite short compared to my resentment, which could be cultivated for 60 years. You know what I mean? They have stories about families having a generational resentment passed on where they're constantly fighting each other, fucking from 80 years. That's what can happen when a resentment's called ours, and then gets justified, and then gets fucking drawn in concrete. So no, that's the fact. Well, yeah. All right. So he says here, we asked ourselves why we had them. Please do. Why don't we? Why don't we ask ourselves right now why we had the fear? Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. He's gonna answer it for us. What? Isn't it because self-reliance has failed us? Wait a minute. No, that's not the story I have. I have fear because baba bada baba baba. No, I don't care what it is that you think is it. this is the answer from recovery, which is, isn't it because self-reliance has failed us? You've now had a perfectly clear diagnosis offered to you. Yeah. Your diagnosis is it's all about you. Diagnosis is, wait a minute. Yeah. Fear, the cause of everything, is an effect of something else. What? Yeah. There's something that causes an effect that we call fear, which is really mental anxiety and agitation. And that is reliance on self. That doesn't say Paul reliance, it says self-reliance, yeah? Be very clear, Paul and self are not the same. So self-reliance is what a lot of us do. Reliance on Paul, no one other than another Paul here does that, yeah? But self-reliance, we're all in there, yeah? The self has many, many names, but it's singular as an activity. So self-reliance has failed us. What? Yeah. And I don't think it should be just kept in a past tense. It is failing us now. It is. It's not like, oh, I'm so happy that's over. Self-reliance really failed me back in 2011. No, it's failing us right now. Yeah. And it's going to fail us if we continue this act of being identified as self. I swear. Yeah. And it's subtle because they describe its subtlety in the big book where it says, you know, the selfish person will be virtuous, kind, giving, compassionate. What? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Even when you're demonstrating good traits, there may be a little bondage of self going on. What? Yes. That's what they stated. I'm not putting it in here. If you're upset with what I'm saying, it's coming from the book. So get upset with that. Yeah. So, all right, let's continue. So, okay, he gives us the diagnosis. Self-reliance has failed us. That's the cause of anxiety. The constant chronic anxiety is we're relying on the thought system, basically. Yeah. The thought system as our forecaster, as our judge, as our Greek oracle, all this, that. Yeah. So self-reliance was good as far as it went, which ain't that far. But so it says it's good as far as it went. It doesn't go far. So its goodness doesn't really last long. Yeah, it's good as far as it goes. Yeah, maybe when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, shit like that. But once you get into the action of living, it doesn't work. Any life run on it's not going to be successful. What? Yeah. Any life run on self-will is not going to be successful. That's a pretty incredible statement. He doesn't say some of our lives run on self may not be successful, but no, any life, meaning all lives, run on self-will will hardly be a success. What? Yeah. Yeah. So self-reliant, all right. But it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve fear problem or any other. It didn't solve any other problem. That sounds like a failed system. If what we're relying on, we're hoping it to come up with some solutions, and it doesn't solve any problem, it's failed. It's just look at the evidence. It says right here, it didn't solve the fear problem, and then it just throws in or any other. So whatever you set it upon, it's going to fail. That's why there's so much anxiety, because we're relying on something that we have a strong feeling is going to fail. It's sort of like, yeah, relying on this thing that's going to fail. What is it? Well, self-reliance was good as far as it went. It's sort of like a rickety bridge, which is as good as far as it goes. If it's 4 feet, maybe you can get over. If it's about 50 yards, you're fucked because you're gonna fall. Yeah. So as far as it goes, it can work, but if you try to solve it with the fear problem, it's not going to work, nor any other problem. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so. For we are now on a different basis. Yeah. Usually you don't notice the basis you're on. You notice what happens and everything like that. But really the basis is determining the reactions that you're going to have to life. Yeah. The basis that your life is built on is going to determine how you travel through life. So we're on a new basis, or a different basis now. Wow, it's great. What is that? Well, the basis of trusting and relying upon God, or whatever you want to call it. Let's say relying upon spirit. Who does it? Whatever. Just not relying on self it's fine. But if you want to say what you're relying on, great. Yeah. So, for we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. See, our means there's something before finite self. So what is that our that seems to have finite selves? Yeah. Could that our stand alone without having the finite self? Yes, it could. Yeah. But the our implies that's not finite self. There's something seems to be bonded to the finite self, or owns the finite self, or is affiliated with the finite self, and it's vaguely used with the word our. Yeah. So why not that? Trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. So our car. Yeah. Does that mean when I say our car, does it mean I'm the car? Yeah. The our means there's something there that has the car. Yes. Our car does mean I'm the car that's our car? No, obviously not. The our is us. Yeah. Whatever that may mean to you. But it's important to be clear what self isn't. Yeah. And self isn't us. We are in the world. All right. So we trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. That sort of sounds like when Jesus said, supposedly, who knows what he said, but you can't have two masters at the same time. Yeah. So there's the option, either the master of self or the master of the infinite. Yeah. You're either leaning one way or the other, and whichever way you're leaning is based on the basis you're on, which is, if you're on the basis of trusting self, you're going to have a lot of anxiety probably. If you're on the basis of trusting infinite, you're going to learn that you're taken care of. Yeah. So, all right, we are in the world to play the role he assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us. And humbly rely on him, does he enable us to match calamity with serenity? There you go. I would say calamity is something self produces. I believe serenity is something the infinite produces. Yeah, it's based on who's running the show. It's like we're a factory, and really the product line we're going to put out is based on who's running the factory. If self is running the factory, we manufacture misery. If the infinite's is running the factory, you'll find out. Yeah, it may be wonderful, it may be beautiful, it may be completely different than you imagine. So there you have it. I hope it's clearly defined, isn't it? If you follow it, right? It goes right to the exact diagnosis. Most people believe fear is an incredibly determining factor in their lives. Well, wouldn't it be helpful but because it's given such a meaning of being the cause of so much, to see that it's an effect of something else? And that maybe if you had release from the something else, the fear in your life would diminish. And the diagnosis is self-reliance has failed us. That's the cause of the anxiety, is relying on self. Yeah. clear diagnosis. What's the patient going to do with it? Yeah. All right. Well, there you go.
Thank you, Paul. That's great. Yeah, if there's any hands today, any questions you want to ask Paul, raise your virtual hands. And Jack G wants to come in, so if you'll mute, Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Hi.
It's good to see you, Paul. Hope you're well. I took your suggestion at the last meeting, and I did a little writing, you know, about what I'm doing during the day as it goes, and it went really great, and until I left the house. Anyway, there's a lot of, I was at a live meeting on Sunday, and I'll just tell you the thoughts I was having during that meeting. And coincidentally, it was on fear. The meeting was on, the topic chosen was fear. So, you know, people were sharing, and the guy that chaired the meeting would kind of comment after time. Every time someone spoke, he would comment after. So I thought I was thinking about the topic fear, and what I was thinking was I know a lot of shit, a lot, from being a spiritual seeker for 30 years and a recovery seeker for 30 years. And so getting near the end of the meeting, no one had their hand up, and my buddy was kicking my chair trying to get me to talk. And the reason why is because I can, because I know a lot of shit, I can say some profound shit, you know? I can say shit on any
We're
topic.
still waiting. We're still waiting, Jack.
Here it is. Sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, here it is. I realized something.
Yep.
And what I realized was nothing.
There you go.
I realized I knew a lot of shit, and I had no answers. So I realized nothing. And I got to tell you, Paul, I've been laughing ever since. It's been incredible.
Oh,
And thank you. Thank you, Paul.
oh, you're
That's
welcome.
it. I'm sorry it took so long to get to it, but there you go.
No, we're joking, you know, East Coast humor, bro. I figure with that accent, you should be able to handle yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, it's our crippled way of showing affection. We're all emotionally stagnant when East Coast kids. Yeah, we weren't introduced to hugging early. No. Yeah, Jack, I love to see it. Yes, it's nice. I don't usually say anything unless I'm in this platform. Yeah, I just sort of stumble around. Great. Anyone else, Guy? Remember, self-knowledge avails us nothing, yeah? But knowledge of self is valuable. True. I truly believe. Yeah.
Michael, do you want to come in?
Hey, thanks, Ben. Thanks for hosting today. Hey, Paul, I have a question that was posed to me earlier last week, and it comes straight from page 68. And I was waiting for this page to come up so I could ask this question for a while now. So, but to me, in some respects, it's already been answered. But I'm going to ask anyway. It says on page 68, we put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. Talking about fear. Paul, can you give me an example of a fear that you might have or one might have that you have no resentment in connection with?
Well, I could have said the fear of death, but therefore I could resent God, whoever set this place up, but that's never been a case in me. So I would say, coming up in my head, the fear of death. There's no one I resent it for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the action figures programming, it has a fear of termination for sure. Yeah. I think most people in the head are afraid of a long time of suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really, and I don't see anyone's causing that. Or, yeah, when I think of chronic suffering, I don't think it's someone named Jimmy, stabbing me every 5 minutes. Usually I think it's the leg's gone bad or something like that. Yeah. So my head can't really reach that far back to resent the guy who ran me over with the car or something. It just doesn't have much. I don't have the resentment arm doesn't stretch that far. So you're just left with life on life's terms. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's the first thing that came up when you said it.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. There's resentment or fear with every fear. It doesn't really matter, does it? You just would rather have the makings of that turned over through 6 and 7. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you recognize this, there was an ingredient in the pie that you didn't think was there, great, but maybe just don't bake the pie. Yeah.
Right.
I got to open the door for the cat. Come on. We had a big rainfall down here today. Yeah. 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 So that's what I think of it. Yeah. Of course, in sense of entitlement, you resent everything, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
You resent it has a view of sense of entitlement combined with an obsession with the idea of self. You tend to see fault and slights everywhere. The beautiful thing is, I don't work trying to change the programming. I just break my allegiance to it. I think the program that demonstrates in my life is mine most of the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
The head is, looks at everything as how it pertains to it. It's not you. It's programming. Yeah. And this idea of going into the programming as the programming to change it doesn't work for me. I don't believe self can get out of self. Yeah. So I just recognize judgment. I don't recognize it as mine. I recognize, frustration. I don't think it's my frustration and it's you're the one who's causing it. Frustration. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's that sense of ownership. Remember when you first got sober and then you would swear, I'm not going to have a resentment, let's say. So you swear in the mirror at 8:30 a.m., I'm not going to have resentment. And then 8:35, there's a resentment comes up. Yeah, I mean, and because you thought you were the one who had it, you thought you could not have it. And yet it came up just to show you the fallacy of what you were thinking was true. But you'd get upset. Fuck, I can't even. Yeah. This is the point that I feel has great value, is we've all tried to fix the system of self-centeredness. It fucking doesn't work. Yeah, so now we allow the program to change some of the programming so that we can be free from the obsession with it all, and to see through the bondage to it as being something to do with us completely, which it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, you don't have judgments. The programming is judgmental. That's how it gauges shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when you were young, I used to lay on the ground, and the way I knew a cloud was moving would be by comparing it with a tree. So the tree wasn't moving, so I could recognize the moving of the cloud based on the tree. Yeah. That wasn't me doing it. Yeah. This was programming, and it's always been programming. Somehow or another, the mental state proposed a wedding to the programming in us. And now, just like you take a wife, now she's my wife. This bondage of self is taking a my, or giving a my to programming, and now living with all the ideas. Oh, how can I stop myself from doing this? And it usually always fails because you're not doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it's kept under bay through the principles and everything else, it's comedy. It's hilarious, most of the shit. When it compels an action, there's usually consequences. So you now get stuck on the flypaper, and then you try to move, and you get that arm gets stuck, then the foot gets stuck, and now you can't get off. Yeah. And you're 30 years sober, and you're still calling resentments yours, and you're still calling mental anxiety fear, which it isn't. Fear is a valid emotion that happens in a moment when there's a threat. Mental anxiety is based on seemingly. It's based on shit that's not happening, but a great belief they are going to happen, or they did happen, so maybe they will happen. And it's just mental fucking foreplay. Yeah, you're getting fucked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, I'm so sick of, I had one of my family members who has trouble with this, and he's got dual diagnosis, and he called me, and because he's a family member, I let it run for about 15 minutes. And I finally just said, listen, every doctor in the world isn't super suspicious of your intentions. It's you, yes? It's something about you that has to be looked at. Yeah. And you know what? The greatest wave, the first great wave of recovery is seeing your role in things. Yeah, because then you're going to see the disease's role in things. If you don't see your role in things, you're going to be completely taken over by the disease, because it's hiding in plain sight. Even if you do an inventory, you think you're doing your inventory, when it's actually you're looking at the manifestations of self and how they defeated you. It has nothing to do with you in a sense. Yes. And that's right in the description in the book. This is one of the instructions that could be followed at the inventory process. It starts with being convinced, page 64, that's the requirement. Being convinced of what? Self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. So maybe you could be convinced, maybe you're praying to be convinced, or you already are convinced. Yes? All right. In that case, we are now going to look at its, meaning self's, common manifestations. The next paragraph starts with resentment. So resentment is a common manifestation of a life run by self. Yes? Just that simple. Yeah? And fear is also. But it can't be fear, because that would exhaust the system. If you were constantly letting out adrenaline every fucking second, yeah, you'd be dried up like a raisin. You'd be in a fucking insane asylum. You'd just be, someone would intervene and put you away. What it does is mental anxiety. The adrenaline usually doesn't kick in, but all the other shit does. Yeah. Contraction, shortness of breath, all this. Yes. It's made up fight or flight. Yes. The adrenaline ain't there, really, in most cases. Yeah. It's just mental anxiety electrocuting us all day based on faith in the fucking false evidence that's appearing. Yeah. We don't even have that clear. You're not doing an inventory on fear. You're doing an inventory on mental anxiety, really. Yeah. And it could stop at the second thing. I'm super afraid of being destitute. And I'm not. Second column. Well, all right, let's move on to the next one. That was answered quickly. But I could be, I will be, yeah. And you could also, a lot of shit. This is why in AA we leave the outcome business, because the head loves to forecast outcomes that it has no idea are going to happen. Yeah, its batting average sucks. Yet we keep reacting. We're like a mime. Yeah, it says there's a wall. There's a heavy weight coming. Yeah, nothing's going on. It's all made up. So, dude, it. I had a person, longtime member in AA. I don't know him well, but my girlfriend knows his wife. We had this huge thing about when they use the word self, it means us in that statement. So being convinced self means us. So being convinced self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. Now I see them as being different, self and us. He was saying self means us. And I'm going, what? So us has defeated us? No, why would they put the word self there? Yeah, and then singularity. Us is collective, self is a singularity. Why did they do that? You're not, and he went on for hours. I'm going, I don't see it. I don't see it as the same thing. I see self as something foreign to us. Yeah, more like a disease or a pathogen. And I just couldn't understand the logic. I swear to God, I just said, well, we should just pass me the fucking corn because it's not going anywhere. I don't want to talk anymore about it. Because if you believe it's self is, then what do you do with self can't get out of self? I mean, then you're in a whole lot of trouble. So if self does an inventory on itself, that's not going to lead to freedom from self. What? Yeah. So, yeah. So this is the premise we put out there. Maybe my English understanding is way off. And there is some correlation between self, blink, blink is us. I don't see that. I think it's a very clear sentence, structured quite well. Being convinced, requirement of what? Self manifested in various ways and what has defeated us. So that is the topic we need to be convinced of. So being convinced of that next segment, if we are, we're now going to look at its, meaning selves, I would imagine. It would have said ours, but it says its, yeah? Common manifestation. So to self, it's an our manifestation, but not to us because we're not self. So it's its manifestations when looking at it from somewhere else, yes? If I was looking at it as self, it would be our manifestations. This is why when we do the inventory, we keep calling them mine, because we're looking at it from the idea of being self. So when it says its, we call them ours, yeah? So the clear recognition is its manifestations translated through the identification, our manifestations. We're identified or in the act of being identified as self. There's a real confusion between ours and its. Yes? Yes or no? Check it out. It's very clear. We're going to look at its manifestations. All right. What's my response to the next paragraph? My resentments. I'm going to write down my resentments. Wait a minute. That would be our manifestations. It's its manifestations. We're going to look at self-resentment. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Don't you see the difference? It's huge. The relief that's available one way is very, very controlled and really, really defined by the problem. The other is fueled by the solution. It can go anywhere and everywhere. Maybe you'll have a peace that passeth all understanding. Yes. It won't make sense to you how okay you are when a lot of shit's not okay. You were thinking my okayness is based on shit being okay. Wait a minute, I feel okay and the shit's not okay. Woohoo! Let's break that bondage. All right. I do well when everything's going well. I don't do well when everything's not going well. Well, I don't know if that's going well, really. Yeah. So this is what we put out. Just put it out every week. Yes. And I don't care if there's resentment with the fear of, first of all, it's not fear, it's anxiety. Seriously. When I'm anxious, that guy's going to get it, get in line before me. I don't feel a rush of adrenaline. It's not a fight or flight. It's a little it's like, it's ruffling my sense entitled feathers. Yes. I'm really in fear. I'm just the next person. I'm going to get the food. It's not, I'm going to die. I'm going to starve on this line. No. Yeah. So, but thanks. But see it, look at it, Michael, do it.
Yeah.
Its manifestations immediately translates even to the advice we're given to our manifestations. We're going to look at our fear. It doesn't say that. It says its manifestations. Yeah. Meaning other than our. It's like, you can see it as nitpicking, but it's huge, really. It's huge way. It's either you're looking at the problem from the solution or you're looking at the solution from the problem, really. So
yeah,
I would much rather have the former in place as the basis. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is what we're attempting to do here, is present a basis and reinforce it for a few years. Yeah. Yeah. So now you won't even think about a resentment as being yours and how did I get it and what, you'll just see it. You'll see it. You'll have a sense like you'll know the tree by its fruits. Yeah. And AA took us through the garden and said, all right, here's the tree of self. It's this fucker's defeated you by you eating its fruit. And this is its fruit. Resentment, fears, harms done to others. Now do an inventory on the orchard and hopefully stop calling them yours.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Super helpful.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Paul. We've got one more hand up if you've got time, Paul. Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's raining.
Gary.
Not going anywhere.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to come in, Gary?
Hi, Paul. Thanks.
Gary.
This is a great topic. I really like your exposition around this whole subject. It makes it clear. I was going to be devil's advocate and say what a complaint I thought of. Well, I'll say the complaint, but I got an answer while listening. It's like the complaint I hear in the head is, well, it's a cop-out to say that it's not my resentment. You know, you're a coward for not taking the courage to have that responsibility and own it yourself. And going with that has a certain heaviness about it, you know, believing that. And anyway, what comes to me in having this question is, try it on for size. Try on for size what you're talking about. Because there isn't any answer in believing what the head says and then trying to talk it out of itself. And I think you make that clear because it's a misidentification.
Yes. So yes.
So try it on for
So
size.
it likes to talk itself into and then try to talk itself out of. It's talking like it's talking to the policeman as the thief and then the thief to the policeman. Yeah, that's its activity.
And it doesn't
Has
get
it?
their job done.
Has it?
No, it's round and round and round she goes.
Yeah,
So-
like someone who knows someone very well may still be amazed about what they do, but they're not surprised anymore. Yes, they're clear. Yes, so we
Good.
should all be, I hope we're hit a point of some clarity concerning the failedness of the system we tend to, or there's a movement to rely on. Yeah. So I don't think you're surprised anymore. It's amazing how myopic it can be. Never underestimate its smallness, but yeah, I mean, it's just what's on offer. Yeah.
That's it's another example. If I was inventorying it like, oh, that's what it says when it's threatened or shown to be existent. Oh, or, you know, having its existence challenged. That's what it says. Oh, there's another inventory of self. That's how it acts.
Well, let me share something to you, bro. Most people here have taken responsibility for their actions, their past actions. We've done the inventory process. We went through the amend. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if someone doesn't, the best primer, like it says, being convinced in many parts of the book, the best primer to realize you're not responsible is to be responsible. Write it down and then recognize something.
Mm-hmm.
And then that responsibility, which you've been, now turns into an accountability, which is a lot lighter to travel as. Yes? We're not trying to bypass the process because most people are going to the fourth column and they're going to see their role in things.
Mm-hmm.
We're just pointing out that when you see your role in things, you're going to see something else's role in things. And after a while, the something else is going to be much more emphasized than yours. Yeah. And more will be revealed truly about what you're not. Yeah. And that's that information you bring to step 6 and 7, if you like. If you don't like and you want to entertain it, you'll end up realizing it's failed. So you can't lose either way. You can learn quicker or you can go through the fucking
Heat grinder.
whatever. It's so, you know, we were talking yet the other day about the fear, and most of the shit that you fear, you've already been through.
Mm-hmm.
I could never have overdone the effects of getting run over twice by one car. the only way I could up that, it would be getting run over twice by a semi, but I don't think I'd be around to entertain it. So all these fears that you think you're afraid of, you've been through what way worse already. And here you are. So it's so funny. Wait a
That's
minute.
a really good one.
Well, it's true. Just look at your own life.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. There's not, man, just tons of stuff.
Mental anxiety.
Yet you're like, oh, geez. And it loves to make mountains out of molehills. So if it doesn't have mountains, it doesn't bother it. It'll make mountains out of molehills.
Yeah.
So you're afraid you won't be able to return that thing because it's the last day to return it. And did it start at 8 in the morning or at 9 at night? What?
Yeah.
This is the head just fucking blows up some minuscule thing to be very anxious about. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, yeah, the head talks a lot. So it doesn't matter. I don't care even if you listen to it. As long as it doesn't compel an action, you're way ahead of the game. If you're the only one it's disturbing, that's great. That's a huge improvement in the world of we.
Yeah.
Which this is a we program. So it's you can be expendable somewhat. Who gives a fuck what's running through your head? As long as you're not dumping it on others and fucking acting out. Yeah.
Cool.
Isn't that a huge progress?
Yeah. I'm doing service just there.
Yes, exactly. We used to have a joke about, every municipality or something should send a big thank you letter to AA because how much shit we've saved them. These insane characters running around all day and night causing havoc. They're all in AA meetings. They don't know because it's like great addition by absence, We're not producing any of this insane shit, but we would very easily could be. Yeah. Yeah. So program's amazing, really. It really is. Mind blows my mind. So is that it for today?
Yeah, we've got one more. Noah wants to come in if there's time.
Yeah, sure. It's Noah.
All right.
Yes.
Can unmute.
Hey, Noah Addict. What's up, Paul? Sorry, I had to jump off for a second, take another call, but and I'm sorry I missed the last few minutes of train of association, but I'm in the middle of, or I'm at the end of my fourth step in the fears right now, and something I'm noticing, which is kind of hilarious, is a lot of the fears center around like, I'm afraid that that person that I did something terrible to hates me. I'm like, well, they do, So that's sort of is the solution to that fear. Is like, well, they do, and what now, So that whole thing's interesting because it's either always about something that's not happening. I don't know. Jack Cornfield is a great bit about that. He's like, if you see a bear in the woods, you're not afraid of the bear. You're afraid the bear is going to come over and bite you. If the bear bites you, you're not afraid that it bit you. You're afraid you're going to die, and on and on. But some fears, I guess like these things are showing up in the fear inventory that are really just inabilities to accept what's going on, which is that people are angry at me, and some people think I'm a piece of shit. Some people think my music sucks. That's the way it is, there's nothing to be afraid of there. That just is a reality a lot of the time. So I guess it's just accepting that.
Like the serenity prayer, but in a way, the courage to do, to change the things you can clean up the side of your street in the 9th step. And it's not about their reaction. It's you doing the amend is the point. Yeah. It's how they reacted to it. It's you doing the amend. Yeah. So after you do the 4th step down the road, 5th step, you'll go into the 9th step. And to me, the 9th step was probably one of the most freeing effects I had because it showed me by its absence how I was completely captured by fear of the past.
Mhm.
of having all these people hate me and all this shit. Yeah, and by facing up to it and just telling the truth, I was released from that. And what I felt was I showed up in my own life. That's how I could feel it then. I mean, there was like a giant withholding that I was going to have to jump through 80 hoops to get it, a little bit of me back. And then a lot of me came, not me as self, but a lot of me came back like that after the ninth step. It was very powerful. Yeah. I was missing me really in my own life. Yeah. Because it'd been auctioned off and was being tied and withheld until I can meet the fucking supreme hoops of the policeman in the head now. It was another form of slavery. So yeah, I just did what I did, made the amends. And yeah, it was awesome. I had an example, it was beautiful. Because when I got sober, there was a very good meeting in North Beach, San Francisco, very hard to find parking there. So, and I wouldn't think about it until Thursday when I drive to North Beach. And I would never go down this one road because there was a market called Rossi's Market on it in North Beach that I used to steal from. So my way of dealing with that was avoiding it. And so even though I needed a parking space, I would not drive down that street. Finally, I said, fuck it, I'm going to do the AA way. And I went in there and I asked one of the cashiers, where's the manager? They said, go upstairs. I went upstairs. I told them how I was taught is to mention you're in a program of recovery. I told him I used to live near there and I was stealing stuff from there, and he has $55. I just had a random, I didn't have any receipts, obviously, for what I took. I just said, you know, a ballpark, $55. And the guy was sort of astonished. I gave it to him and I walked. And then from that point on, I never thought of Rossi's Market again. It was great. I was freed from my own past. Yeah, because this is what AA is. We're bound by our past when self is running the show, completely bound by it. Yeah. We're freed from that when the infinite is running the show. And how that's demonstrated is we fulfill the working steps. We just do 4 through 9 and get on with it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's powerful, very powerful. So, because my old way was avoiding shit at all costs. Completely. I never wanted to deal with anything because I felt so bad, which is what your head's doing. You're putting your thoughts in other people, believing they think the way you do about you, and they probably don't. So that's pretty cool. And so, yeah, it was an incredible demonstration. And this is what AA did. Every time, like one of the biggest ones was, people will step on your toes seemingly without provocation, but if you look at it, you'll invariably find you made a decision based on self to put you in a position to be hurt. That cleared tons of shit in my life. I saw it. It captured so many episodes, and it was the exact fucking crime diagram. Yeah. There was a decision made from self, and then all this shit happened. And most of the story, I forgot the origin of the story, and I just embellished the rest of the story. And then the humility came, and I started to see the origins of the stories. Yeah. Yeah. All these statements in the book were like living light posts for me as I went through the process. I mean, they describe the addict alcoholic head perfectly, and the emotional being stunted and all that shit. Oh, beautiful. So nice to see you, Noah. We're in your corner. Yeah. Sober a day at a time. Hallelujah. Yeah. All right. Anyone else, or is that it for today?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Paul. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Pleasure. What a great day. Nice day. Yes. I'll see some of you, I hope, today at 4:30 Pacific time. And we'll be there a little